In today's video, we're going to be changing the front brakes on this Ram 1500, specifically the front rotors and pads. So let's get into it. Alright guys, so welcome back to today's video. So we're going to be replacing the front brakes on this Ram 1500. But before we get into it, I'll show you guys the parts that I have. And we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I will link all the parts down in the description below. But we're going to be using these Power Stop Evolution Plus pads. These are unique because they don't make a ton of brake dust. So you'll see here it says Clean Ride Ceramic Low Dust Formula. A lot of guys are running these pads here and having great results with not having to clean their wheels constantly. They don't really make any brake dust. So I'm gonna keep you guys updated on that. I've heard really good things about these pads. We're also gonna be doing the rear brakes as well with the same pads. So definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, because I'll be updating you guys and showing you guys the process with that. I also have brand new front rotors here. Like I said, I'll link everything if you guys want to check up this stuff and pick it up. But the rotors that are on the truck currently, they're warped right now. I just picked up the truck, so I want to replace everything at once. What I am going to do is, you'll notice it doesn't have any coating here, and usually this will rust. So what I'm going to do just quickly is I'm going to clean them off. They're usually covered in oil. We're going to clean them up, tape them off, and I'm going to paint this portion black so it doesn't rust. So what I like to do next is take some sort of flexible tape, whether it's this tape or electrical tape, and go around the edge. So you're going to want to paint up to there, to where your brake pads are going to ride, so that all this is going to be painted. And this, because this is usually the part that rusts every time you wash your car and stuff, because this is just raw exposed steel. So this will end up being all rusted if you don't do this. So once you got your tape all there and you got everything taped off, we can go ahead and spray this with paint. And then while this one dries, we can get this one prepped. So I did wipe down the surfaces with some acetone, or you could use brake clean, either one. So we're good to go. All the oil is removed on it, because they do get shipped with oil to prevent them from rusting when they're kind of just sitting on the shelf. All right, so while these two dry, let's go ahead and start taking things apart. So you're gonna wanna jack your vehicle up so wheel's off the ground, support it with jack stands, and then take your wheel off. Next up, what you're gonna wanna do is take a flat screwdriver or a pry bar, and you're gonna wanna retract the pistons on your calipers, so like this. And what this is doing, if you can see inside there, is we are pressing that piston back in. So you just keep a constant pressure and you'll see the piston retracting. So there's a piston there and also a piston down there. So this way, when we go to put our new pads in, the piston is fully retracted. So once that's done, you're gonna see your caliper has quite a bit of play on it now. Since the pistons are retracted, we're gonna remove this 13 mil bolt and this 13 mil bolt as well. You might have to hold these if it starts spinning. Okay, so we removed our two bolts, one from here and one from here. So you're gonna also wanna make sure you take out your ABS sensor, because you don't wanna be putting unnecessary tension on that. And you're gonna take this off. You can use a tie wrap to strap it out of your way for now, or try to rest on something, but just don't let it hang off the rubber hose. So caliper slides off. And put it off and out of the way where it's not gonna fall or hang. So now you get to the pads, you guys. So we'll take these off. There's actually quite a bit of life on these, but like I said, I don't know what brand of pads these are, but they do not want to stop this vehicle, and it takes a lot of braking force to even get the thing to stop, and so much that, you know, somebody warped the rotors on it. So next up, just a side note, these slide pins here, you want to make sure that they're operating freely, like so, if you want. And depending, you can pop them out. So they pop out like this. You can just double check, make sure they still have some grease on them. Slide pin grease. So these ones look all right. Like I said, it looks like somebody changed the pads on it recently, but make sure they got smooth operation. Just double check both of them, and if need be, you can apply some slide pin grease, but like I said, these ones look half decent. So I'll put those back in. We will have to take out these two bolts right here, so 1 and 2, to be able to get this bracket off, so we can take our rotor off, because the rotor doesn't come off unless you take this off. So 21 will get these two bolts loose, and once you take out those two 21 mils, the bracket will come off, and then your rotor is free. Next up, we'll hang our fresh rotor on here, reinstall our bracket. So make sure your two bolts are nice and tight, then we can move on to the next step. So we've got our brand new pads here, And you can buy them with or without hardware, so you might have to transfer your clips or you'll have new ones in here. These go on the ends of the pad, and then we can put our pads on here. I also cleaned this with acetone again on both sides to make sure our surfaces are clean, and we'll install our pads. So here's the new clips. Let's throw it on. So here's the new clips installed. I'll go ahead and we will get the pad in here, and just like that. So make sure that your actual, like, it sits there and can move freely. If for some reason it's binding and you have a ton of stuff caked up on here, you might have to use a wire brush to clean off any junk here. Also, a lot of guys will argue whether to put slider pin grease here. It's a big controversy, or some guys will even put anti-seize, which anti-seize you don't want to use. Anti-seize is for bolts. It actually has a fine grit in it, so you don't want to actually be using like a grit material. But some guys, you know, like to put stuff here. Some guys don't. I think it just collects dirt and just cakes more junk there. If you have it nice and clean, I think as long as you replace all your sliders, you can see that that's gonna operate as needed. So let's put it in our inside pad. So we'll bring our caliper back over. Make sure you don't like twist the hose or do anything funny with your brake line. And then since we already retracted our pistons, like I said, we're not gonna have to fight with it like you can see, and we can throw our 2 bolts in. So I'll take our 13 mil bolt, start with the bottom one, it's a little bit easier to get it situated. Just thread that one, thread your top bolt. So there we go, we got our bolts here, so tighten these both down with our 13 mil. So there we go, everything is tight, our 13s are tight, our 21s are tight. Double check everything, and then last but not least, make sure you put your ABS clip back on here because you don't want your ABS wire to be dangling. And this side is done, but don't forget you still have to move the pistons back, so you'll definitely want to make sure that we pump the brakes at the end of this, because as you can see there's a ton of slop right now, so that needs to be taken up. So first things first, we'll retract the piston. So same thing, we'll whip right through this. Let's take out our 13s. 13s removed. Take off our caliper. Take out both of your pads. Now we can take out our 221s. Once your 221s are out, you can take off your bracket, and your rotor comes off. Rotor on. Throw your bracket on. Put the 221 mils in. Tighten the 21s. Put your new pads in. Your caliper back on. Tighten the 13 mils. Install your ABS wire on that clip. And all set. You can go ahead and put your wheels back on. All right, so kind of interesting on these pads specifically, it says it is important that the bed-in happens as soon as possible after installation. It's also important that the bed-in procedure is followed as close as possible. So it says 30 aggressive decelerations from 30 miles per hour to 5 miles per hour, leaving 30 seconds in between each brake application. So it wants you to step on the brakes hard between going 30 miles an hour down to 5, and then kind of coast for 30 seconds and do that 30 times to bed these things in. Okay, so the truck is back down on the ground and wheels are tight, everything's good. What you are gonna wanna do, like I mentioned before you even start this or do anything, pump your brakes, you guys. Look at that, right to the floor. This is essential, look at that, almost to the floor. And it took 2 full pumps before we had our brake pressure back. So you guys definitely wanna make sure you pump those brakes before you even attempt to start the vehicle. That way the pistons move all the way back in and you actually have brake pressure. So just before we wrap up, you guys, you can see this brake dust. This was from about maybe about almost 1,000 miles of driving. You can see all the brake dust. So I'm gonna keep you guys updated on the brake dust situation, but that way we can keep our wheels clean. All right, thanks for watching, guys. That's gonna be a wrap. If you guys found this helpful or informative, make sure you give it a thumbs up for me. Hit that subscribe button for other videos. Also gonna be doing the rear brakes as well in the same pad, so I'll keep you guys posted on that and the brake dust situation and all that. All the parts can be found in the description below. We'll see you guys on the next video.